Okay, members, it's 5:30 and welcome to this meeting of the Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee held on the 6th of April 2021. Just got to read this privacy statement. This meeting will be recorded and made available via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images and the audio of those individuals speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website, www.caerphilly.gov.uk. Okay, members, we go now to agenda item 1, and that's to receive apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence other than those already passed on to committee services?
No, Chair, just Councillor Price, and also Councillor Phipps, Cabinet member, was hoping to attend, but she sends her apologies.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, can I just for absolute certainty take a roll call of members in attendance? Mark, would you be able to do that, please?
Yes, no problem, Chair. Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor Aldworth.
Present.
Councillor Christine Forehead.
Present.
Councillor Elaine Forehead.
Present, Mark.
Councillor Harding.
Present.
Councillor Johnston.
Present, Mark.
Councillor Kirby.
Present.
Councillor Mann.
I'm on, Mark.
Councillor Miles.
Present.
Councillor Pritchard.
Present.
Councillor Sorrellis.
Present.
Councillor Sargent.
Present.
Councillor Simmons.
Yes.
Councillor Taylor. And Councillor Whittle.
I'm here.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And can I say it's an improved attendance today, and let's hope that we get better attendance as we go along. We do need to attend as much as possible. So 2 absentees is an improvement on previous meetings. Okay, can I go on now? Yeah, agenda item 2. That's the declarations of interest. I just got to read this for all members. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and/or prejudicial interests in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution, and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Are there any declarations of interest at all? No. Okay, thanks, members. Okay, we now go on to agenda item number 3. That's to approve and sign the following minutes. So this is the Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee held on the 23rd of February 2021. So we're just looking for accuracy. Can I go through them in page order? Page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Are there any points of accuracy to be noted at all? Oh, can I have somebody to move the recommendation?
Move.
Can I have somebody to second that as well?
Second.
Move it, I second it, yeah.
Okay, then can we now go to the vote, please?
Chair, Councillor Adams, can he vote to accept the motion?
Okay, Mark, if you got that, Councillor Adams' vote.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Adams.
Thank you.
Councillor Simmons, did you want to come in?
No, I was just casting the vote, sorry.
Oh, have you voted on the forms, Councillor Simmons?
I have, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Councillor Christine Forehead?
Chair, I have to abstain. I wasn't present at the last meeting.
Okay.
I'm the same chair as well, Elaine Forehead.
Okay. If you got the forms in front of you, Councillor Forehead, if so, you can abstain on by casting your vote for abstain. There we go. Thank you. Okay, is that now carried? Excellent. Thanks a lot. Okay, then we now move on to agenda item 4, consideration of any matter referred to this committee in accordance with the call-in procedure. We don't have any matters called in today. No.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Item agenda number 5, that's the Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. Can I hand over to Mark, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members are asked to consider the Forward Work Programme alongside the Cabinet Work Programme as appended to the report and to suggest any changes. There's a couple of amendments that I just need to bring to your attention this evening before we go to the vote. It is proposed that the employee volunteering scheme, which was originally scheduled for the 28th of September, this now comes to your meeting on the 25th of May. So that's next month's meeting instead of the one in September. And also we've got additional reports in on the 6th of July, which, as you can see from your Forward Work Programme, there's nothing down for July at the moment, but it's proposed that the workforce development strategy and the wellbeing strategy comes to the committee on the 6th of July. So if members are happy, I would like to seek approval to publish the Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme as appended to the report with the minor alterations that we've just mentioned onto the Council's website. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Are members content with the recommendations? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Chair. Yes, Chair.
Yes. Yeah.
So we don't have to go to a vote on this, Mark? No.
Yes, Chair. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, then yes, we'll go to the vote now then.
If you could just read out the recommendation, Chair, and then get someone to move and second it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it's for the employee volunteering report to come on the 25th of the 5th, 21, and for the workforce development report to come to committee on the 6th of the 7th, 21. Okay, everybody clear?
I'll move, Chair.
I moved, I second.
Excellent. Okay, then we can now proceed to the vote.
Mark, Councillor Adams will accept that. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Adams. That's carried, Chair, unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for that. Thanks, thanks, members. Okay, we now move on to agenda item number 6. That's to receive and consider the following cabinet reports. Mark, none of these have been brought forward. That's correct.
That's correct, Chair. Nothing's been brought forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we now go to our main item of business. That's the Team Caerphilly Better Together Transformation Strategy 6-month update. Councillor Leonard Senna will introduce the report and there will be a presentation. So can I hand over to Councillor Senna, please?
Thank you, Chair. The report before us this evening is the 6-month update which provides members the opportunity to scrutinise and comment before this report is presented to Cabinet. The report updates members on the progress made under the Team Caerphilly Better Together strategy. You will be aware of the 10 corporate reviews that are taking place, and this report provides details on how these are progressing. It also includes a summary of progress against strategic actions and the wellbeing and place shaping framework. You will also note that there is an all-member seminar arranged for the 19th of April, where all members will be presented with the progress that has been made with the transformation strategy. As you will see from the content of the report and the appendices, there has been a great deal of work undertaken by officers and much ground covered in the last 6 months. Tonight we have project leads or deputy in attendance. We'll answer any questions members may have. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stenner. Kath, would you be okay to begin the presentation now?
Yes, Chair. I'm just going to screen share. Bear with me.
Okay.
Please bear in mind I can't see the meeting when I screen share, but my colleagues will shout out if I need to respond
Excellent.
to anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just quickly check if members all okay with seeing the presentation in front of them? If anybody can't, just please indicate, but I can see it perfectly. Okay, looks as always good, Kath. Excellent.
Okay, thanks, Chair. As Councillor Stenner said, this report is one of the regular updates of Scrutiny on the Team Caerphilly Better Together transformation strategy as part of the programme management arrangements. The last report you saw was in November 2020 when committee received a report on strengthening the role of scrutiny in the transformation strategy. The purpose of this report is to give you an update on actions over the past few months and in particular to give you some more information on the current series of corporate reviews. By way of introduction, the update gives an outline of the corporate reviews and as the Cabinet member said, the relevant leads are here to answer any questions on those. A summary of the Audit Wales involvement in the transformation programme, the wellbeing and place shaping framework and links between the governance of the various programmes, the commercial and investment strategy as part of the overall transformation programme, a community engagement with staff, residents and the trade unions, and various officers will pop into the presentation and cover slides as we go along. In relation to the corporate reviews and progress so far, committee have already received information on the series of 10 corporate reviews in July last year. Progress since then has established the project teams, each led by a member of the leadership team with transformation support. An engagement campaign with staff supported by the trade unions has asked staff to become involved, and we now have over 50 employees that have stepped up to say that they would like to be part of the work, either as part of the project teams or as part of staff focus groups. Staff involvement has helped shape the reviews, with sessions held across each directorate at the start of last year 2020 and again over the past few weeks. Some of the learning from the changed working practices and the way in which we've continued to serve residents through the COVID period are also shaping the work streams under each review. The latest resident survey, which you'll hear more about later, has also shaped the way that work is progressing. At point 5.2 in the report, you have a summary on which each of the reviews is looking at currently, and the appendix to the report is a progress update against each that was provided to the March meeting of the Programme Board. Programme Board, for your information, our corporate management team and the Cabinet member for Finance, Performance and Customer Services. Within the appendix, you can see the work streams under each and a short summary progress statement. The text in bold in the first column are the objectives of each review, which you've seen in previous reports. The appendix gives you a bit more detail, probably for the first time, on what work is actually underway at the moment. You've received reports on the flexible working review, and I know that you've just agreed for the corporate volunteering and community partnership review to come to you in May, and also for the workforce development review to come to you in July. But I'm not sure if Sue wants to say anything on scheduling reports to committee.
Yes, Sue, by all means, can you come in?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Kath. Just to say that, over the next 3 to 4 meetings, there will be a number of reports being brought to members. Kath mentioned, I know Mark did earlier, 2 really, for the organisation, key strategic policies, which is the workforce development strategy and the wellbeing strategy. They're now agended for the beginning of July, policy and resources, and I'll be bringing as lead on the volunteering and community partnership. I'll be bringing you a report on the employee volunteering scheme in the next meeting in May. So just for members to be aware, a number of reports will be brought in the forthcoming months on the corporate reviews. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Chair. And as we've noted, the leads for each meeting, either the leads or the alternates are in the meeting today. And as this is quite a long report, it's not just about the corporate views. It was felt you might want to ask any questions you have on the 10 corporate views at this point. You can see from the slide there who's actually in the meeting. So if you have any questions in relation to each one of those, then officers are here to answer those for you.
Yeah, thanks, Kath. We've had three questions in the pre-meeting. If I can go to Councillor Gary Johnson, who's got a question on the flexible working. Gary, are you there?
Yeah, Chair, just trying to get. Yeah, okay, it's working now. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Yeah, I was just wanting to, because we had the update, we had the spatial scrutiny meeting around the flexible working. Can we give us an update on where we are from there? Wonder if Marcus is about.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Marcus, you present? Let's have a look. Straight, right. Oh, Lynn, can you come in?
Thank you, Chair. Marcus is available this evening. If I can help, the report going to Cabinet tomorrow with an update following the scrutiny committee that we attended towards the end of January. Further work is being undertaken. Heads of service are looking at their services with a view to staff categories, how staff would fit. Staff would fit.
Sorry, Lynn, you're breaking up pretty badly there.
Sorry.
I managed to pick up half of it, but maybe if you try again, if it goes again, well, just have to persevere. But can you start again, please?
Yeah. If I switch my camera off, Chair, is that okay? That might make it
anything,
easier.
Yeah,
is that okay?
Really hear much of you, but okay. Go on and try that, Lynn. Go on.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me better now?
Definitely better from where I am now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There's a report going to Cabinet tomorrow with an update following our attendance and the report at P&R at the end of January. Since that date, heads of service have been asked to do some work with regards to the categorisation and where staff would fit. Work has also been undertaken to look and source equipment to see then how that would match up with the staff categories. Members will also be aware that you were very keen that a further survey went out to staff. We were going to send that before Easter, but we were very conscious that people were taking leave, and we also had some staff on term time only contracts. So we didn't want that email lost amongst other emails. So that will be going out this week now, because it's really important for staff to engage in that, for us to get an update on the agile working. There's also some questions in there around wellbeing, as members will recall we said we were going to ask, and also around learning and development. I'm not sure if that helps. Is that okay, Chair?
Gary, would you like to come back? That definitely does give more information, yeah, but Gary, would you want to come back on that?
Just on, you know, I think you can see tonight, Chair, you know, and there's not that many on here, but how communications, you know, technology is not how it should be. You know, so are we going to improve the technology? If we're going to have more and more people working from home, we need the proper technology, and, you know, and they see when we have council meetings with the things, the number of councillors that haven't got the proper equipment or connections or whatever, you know, how can we expect to move forward unless we start getting these things right?
And I think, to be fair, Gary, I think you've raised an important thing there. I think most of us councillors have had problems dialing into meetings. In fact, one meeting I was chairing, I actually got kicked out of the meeting. But I'm sure that's happened to many of us. Lynn, would you like to come back on that point?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's important that heads of service continue to talk to their members of staff and managers talk to their staff to ensure that we've got the right equipment for our staff. Where we're experiencing problems, it's also important that we continue to report those to IT with members as well as staff, because unless we're doing that, IT won't know there are problems. But we constantly working with Liz Lucas. There's a member of the IT staff, of the senior staff, on the flexible working group as well. So they're constantly aware of what's going on, because you're absolutely right, Councillor Johnson. We need to ensure that any of our staff that are working flexibly, and that's not just working at home, you know, agile could be working anywhere. We need to make sure they've got the right equipment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. Councillor Mann, is it something similar to Councillor Johnson's point?
Yeah, the technology is an issue, Chair. I mean, this morning I had a chat with the IT help desk, because I was spending a lot of my time watching the egg timer rather than actually getting on with stuff. And I mean, it's as basic as that sometimes. Now, that could have been a connection problem here, but it does seem to happen maybe too often. And the other point I wanted to make, I think I read somewhere that we were actually looking at Zoom as well as an option. For example, Zoom, you can see 75 members on screen, well, in 3 or 4 pages. But, you know, the fact you can actually see people on screen, I think does help the meeting rather than just seeing a few people as we are here and then just seeing a lot of blank spaces. I mean, so we if we are going to carry on, and Gary is quite right, we've got to actually get the technology probably better than it is at the moment.
Yeah. Can the views of both Councillor Mann and Councillor Johnson be fed back, Lynn? Because I think other councillors would certainly endorse what has already been said. Would that be okay?
Of course, Chair, and Liz Lucas is constantly working with the national providers, because I think the pressure on the systems, because we're all using it, is causing some issues, and Liz is constantly feeding that into the national providers, to be fair as well.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Chair, if
Gary,
if possible, Chair, can we have a copy of the update to Cabinet after Cabinet's had it? Can it be emailed out to us?
Yeah, I mean, just on that, if I bring Mark in, obviously the decision notice will get published, won't it? But in terms of the actual sort of and the Cabinet meeting will be screened as well, won't it? But if I could ask Mark, what further information would be available to members if we requested it?
That's right, Chair. The report, the revised report, such as the flexible working, which is going to Cabinet tomorrow, is available on the website under the Cabinet meetings, so members can look at that report. And the scrutiny comments are under the consultation section of that revised report. Thanks.
Okay then. Well, we can check that information out.
Well,
Okay. Go on, Gary.
Sorry, Chair, but can we just request that the email us out the report then?
Well, we can all get a copy of that, Gary. I mean, we can literally go on the website, you know, after this meeting and get the report. It's easy enough. So we can get that ourselves. I'd imagine.
Fair enough, Chair. I won't want to, make it awkward for anyone.
Okay. Can I bring in Councillor Margaret Sargent, please?
Thank you, Chair. Agile working is one question, please. From what Lynn Donovan has just said, in the 6th of July meeting, we'll have more updates, which I think is very important. We need to know exactly what's happening with this. And my concern is the comment that Lynn Donovan made on staff would fit. I'm concerned that staff are going to be put in the wrong place just because they are clerks in one area and they are assumed that they can be clerks anywhere. So I look forward to the July meeting on that one. Okay. My other couple of questions are on the remote contact review. The single contact number. Now, when I was speaking to Liz Lucas a long time ago, she was saying that we would never have this single contact that would end up with press this button for this, press button for that. 10 minutes down the line, you eventually get the person you want. Can you tell me if that's going to happen? And also, will all this work be staying in-house? It's not going to go anywhere else.
Yeah. Okay, Margaret, there's a few points there. Lynn raised her hand, I think, after the first one. And if I could come in after Lynn. Lynn, can you respond to the first question?
Before that, Jamie, I got a couple of other questions. Can I come in further down the line?
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. On the 6th of July, as Mark said earlier, I'll be bringing the workforce development strategy and the wellbeing strategy into P&R scrutiny. So I'm sure that there'll be lots of discussions from member on both of those. And in terms of Councillor Sargent's question, perhaps it was a poor choice of wording from mine, Chair, in terms of fit. At the moment, heads of service are doing a very rough exercise in terms of how posts could match the categories within the report that members saw a while ago. And we're very conscious that a clerical assistant in one area may have very different requirements to a clerical assistant, so it's going to be down to each head of service. It's only a rough exercise at the moment because we have to ensure that there are discussions with individual members of staff as well, because staff will have their own requirements and different issues. It may be easier for some staff to work agile than others, so we won't just be telling staff what's going to happen to them. We'll be engaging with them and consulting with them along the way, talking to each of them about their own individual needs. And of course, we'll be continuing to have our discussions with our trade union colleagues as well. So my apologies if my poor choice of wording misled members in any way.
Thank you ever so much, Lynn. It was just a query because, you know, you do get to hear that people are put in the wrong job sometimes. But thank you for the explanation.
Can I bring the cabinet member in, Eleni? Can I bring Eleni in respect of Margaret's question regarding the single contact number? Just wondered, Councillor Stenner, if there's been any sort of anecdotal information from staff about how effective it may be, and then if I could defer then as well to Karen Williams, who's on the call.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, in response to the single number, we've had positive feedback from the call handlers that are taking the telephone queries in the office, and the managers. Very positive, in fact, and I'm sure that Karen will be able to give a bit more background on that as well. But, you know, from a customer's perspective, there's nothing more frustrating than contacting somebody only to be told, well, we can't deal with that here, we're going to pass you on to, you know, ring this other number. With regards to the call handling and the pressing 1 for this number, 2 for that number, I don't think that it is that sort of service. But what it is somebody could ring with 3 or 4 queries, such as how much is it to pick up bulky waste, when is the CA sites open, and it can all be dealt with in one call. So I think that is the positive feedback that we've had from staff and from customers. Okay,
I'll let you get the door, Eleni.
It's my clock, actually, Jamie. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you very much for that.
Karen, can I bring you in as well, just to elaborate on some of the points that Leonard has raised there?
Thank you, Chair. Thank Councillor Stenner as well. Yes, just to sort of reiterate there what Councillor Stenner was saying, in regards to the 1 number, what we're kind of talking around is sort of the very high transactional calls that come into the authority. So we know that 1 number isn't going to fit all services within the authority. There are some very bespoke services that will always remain as individual numbers, such as IAA, for example. You know, they are a standalone service, but certainly there is merit in terms of technology in handling the very high transactional at first point of contact. So for an example, a lot of the work that we've done over the last 3 months has been to work with sort of our high transactional service areas, things like council tax, housing rents, housing benefits, housing repairs, our housing offices. We have brought them all on to our technology, into the same sort of telephony software that we have been using over the last 8 to 12 weeks. So we've migrated 10 departments, over 140 users on. And what we have found, and the feedback that we've had from those teams, is actually they can deal with their calls far more efficiently. The calls are routed far better across their teams. It also gives the managers better insight into what's happening, and far less calls have been abandoned. For one team, actually on 1 week, no customers actually abandoned calls or hung up. Or they used to have an issue where people were leaving answer phone messages on the technology they had because the phone wasn't being answered. That never happened. Every single call was answered. While we've been working with those teams, we've kind of softly sort of introduced a little bit of the one number, but very, very as a soft introduction. So, for example, when you were ringing council tax, we are offering to make a payment. So as part of the option, so we're giving customers, are you calling to make a payment? And if they are, you know, we give them options on how they can do it. They can use the automated service or they can speak to an advisor. Yes, that is by pressing a number at the moment. But what it does mean is that call doesn't go through to somebody in council tax who then so the customer says, right, I need to make a payment. And then has to be routed to another team to take the payment. The call goes straight to that person. So it avoids this having to transfer calls on, like we're saying, between departments. Yeah, I know that, you know, some people don't like the press one number, press one for this, press two. And the long-term goal is for the technology to be far more intuitive, so that when you ring that you can actually say what you would like to do and it would route you off. But obviously we're in the discovery phase of that at the moment and working with suppliers to look what's on there. But we also, like, you know, something that you have raised, that we don't like the one number where you have to press all these different numbers and then eventually get through. We want it to be a very streamlined process so that it makes it really easy for customers to be able to speak who they need to speak to. And also that they can deal with calls at first point of contact. You know, we're working with council tax and business rates at the moment now, post sort of implementing the software in, because actually what we're looking at is saying, well, could maybe the contact centre handle the really day-to-day queries, which then frees up those bespoke council tax team to really help the residents that need help with dealing with their council tax payments, the ones who are struggling to make payments at the moment, or are struggling to keep up with their bills, or they have really in-depth queries in regards to they've moved properties or they've had a bereavement. Well, actually freeing up those staff that they can spend time on the phone with those customers. And then the contact centre can deal with the quick, I need to change my address, or I just need to know what my balance is. So when we're talking about one sort of number, we're sort of looking at that one approach that will sort of give the customers a better experience. Then is the best way that I can explain it, is dealt with their queries at a quicker sort of response.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much, Karen. That makes it so much clearer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen, for that. Councillor Royce Orales.
Yeah, I'm along similar lines, Chair, with two of the reviews. With the remote contact review, can I assume that we have looked at what is good practice elsewhere, or are we just trying to generate a bespoke type system that's suitable for Caerphilly? And with the walk-in service review, it says here that we're looking at similar at models elsewhere. What particular model at the moment is one that is likely to be employed in Caerphilly? Have you discovered what is the most suitable as yet, and looking to apply that, or are we still searching around for something that might best fit?
So that's one for Karen, and then I'll bring in Gareth Jenkins with the walk-in services. Karen, you okay?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Sorales and Chair. What we've been looking at is we're part of a group that's called Customer Focus Wales, that deals sort of with all customer services within the local authorities, and we've kind of talked to them about what their best practice is, what everybody's doing, and we are probably one of the few authorities at the moment that doesn't have sort of this centralised approach. They've also, you know, we've been Pembrokeshire have a very good model at the moment, that they even have for internal staff, sort of an approach of one number. I know it's sort of a frustration of some of you guys that when you try to ring switchboard, where you want to speak to an officer, that you can be stuck in a queue sometimes getting through just to be put through to somebody. So one of the things that we are looking at, certainly for cabinet members and for internal staff, is having a number that they can dial, and then you can just say the officer's name that you would like to speak to, and then it automatically routes your call through to them. So that, again, that makes the service more efficient for you, but also then frees up our switchboard to deal with residents who have queries. So we are going out and looking at what other local authorities are doing, what seems to be the best approach, and what is improving their services before we're not just going down a route of this is what we want to do. We're trying to look at what's best practice, and obviously as part of that as well, we're going to be doing engagement with local members and local residents as well, to see what their thoughts are as well, and they will all be taken into account before any approach is done.
Thanks for that, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Karen. I've got no questions down. Further questions about the review. Gary, can you come in, please?
Yes, I'm bringing it from Unite side. We've been contacted by some of our members that a centralised number has been put in place in the housing department. We understand it was for the COVID and people working from homes. Our concerns were that an operative, if he rings in, has to still go through that centralised number. And the concerns were in an emergency or something like that they had to go through a prolonged Welsh version, English version, before they could actually speak to anyone on that phone. So there was concerns with some of the operatives contacting the office through that number.
Okay. Well, Karen, can I come back to you, and then we'll just hopefully get some kind of response to that. But
yeah, absolutely, Gary. I know that obviously housing. Are we talking about housing repairs, and are you talking about in what context? Is it sort of the officers out working?
So it's housing repairs, and it's the operatives on opti time. If there was issues, they had to go back to a planner, and they were going through that centralised system. That was their only way of contacting some of the people working from homes. And like I say, it was just concerns where we've had through our members.
Then obviously none of these issues have been raised with ourselves, so I don't know whether they've been raised by with sort of the housing repair manager with Faye. So if they are concerned, we're happy to work with Faye and review it. But the feedback that we've had from sort of that service area is that they're impressed with the solution. It's completely working for them, and they haven't had any issues. But so if the officers have fed that back in, it certainly hasn't come my way at the moment. But obviously we can work with Faye if we need to make any tweaks to the system. I know that there is a welcome message in English and Welsh, which has to be. It's law. We're governed by Welsh service standards. That has to be in place. But then from hearing that English, just the bilingual welcome message, if you choose the English option, then you can go straight through and you can select to go through to the planners. And when I've been looking at sort of the statistics, they certainly haven't had any queues on the phone lines or anything, that would stop them getting through very quickly to those teams. But, I'm happy to, if you want to send that feedback across to sort of Faye, and then if she wants to contact me, then we're happy to work with them to tweak the phone line if they need to, or if there's anything that we can do to help the situation.
Okay,
right. That's okay. I'll ask my members to get in contact with Faye and make her aware of it then.
Yeah. Okay. Can I bring in Gareth Jenkins? I forgot to bring him in just then, and then if I could bring in Ed.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Evening, everyone. Karen took the words right out of my mouth. To be fair, she covered off everything that I would have said, in the sense that we are looking at different models, but until we've got all that data capture pulled together and we can think about what actually fits Caerphilly in the best way, we can't really determine what model that might look like. But of course, members will be very aware some areas have got customer hubs, one-stop shops, you know, all the kind of buzzwords that are going around. We don't know how that will work for Caerphilly until we've done the data capture and started to analyse that. So it's very much work in progress, and we've got quite an important session coming up on the 15th of April, where we're hoping that we'll be in a much better position to be thinking about that. Clearly, and the most important point Karen made, I think, was clearly anything that we're looking at will come back through consultation and engagement processes to ensure that it's the right fit for the community and the right fit for members as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. Can I bring Ed in, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just point out, obviously, Gary's engaged in some queries that he's received from his members this evening. Conscious of the format, I'm not sure if Gary was aware, but Sue and the team have arranged and do now meet with the trade union partners on a monthly basis on the transformation programme as a whole. Leanne, I know, is going to speak on this a little bit later, but I just thought it was helpful to remind our trade union partners that our doors are open, our engagement channels are open, and I think it's probably more helpful if those kind of issues are raised in that forum than this one. And obviously, if Gary's got some specific concerns, we're happy to look at that when we get together in the next few weeks. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Colin Mann.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I was uncertain whether you were actually still on the presentation or on the report, Chair. I've got a couple of questions on the report, depending.
Yeah, well, we just paused for the corporate reviews now. If there's any questions on the 10 corporate reviews, and then Kath will be proceeding further on with the presentation. So if there's anything on the corporate reviews, we got the officers present. If not,
before we get to the appendices, Chair, it was a question on the report itself.
Okay, what was the question, Colin? Because maybe this may be available to answer now, or it may be.
It was to do with the financial consequences, and I read in let's see if I can get the paragraph. 8.2.
Yeah. Yeah, probably be a bit later on, Colin. If you want to raise that later on.
Yeah, fine. That's why I asked, Chair. Quite happy to come in later.
Kath, are you okay to proceed now with the further on?
Yeah, certainly, Chair. I just wondered if it's appropriate. There's quite a lot of further information in the report. Would with the Commissioner Committee, could the leads leave the meeting now, and we can deal with any queries around the corporate reviews if they crop up via email afterwards?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. I'll progress then. The next slide then is around, and this just for Councillor Mann's information, the PowerPoint presentation follows the format of the report. So in relation to Audit Wales involvement, as part of the Wales-wide COVID recovery planning project, Audit Wales, formerly the Wales Audit Office, are currently providing challenge and support to the transformation programme. Specifically, they've got an interest in 3 of the corporate reviews: sustainable financial planning, workforce development and decision making, and their focus is on whether the reviews are being delivered with proper regard to economy, efficiency and effectiveness, and whether they're being worked on with regard to the sustainable development principles as well. They've got an overall insight to the transformation programme and are having regular 6-weekly update sessions with the head of transformation and transformation staff, and they also see all papers received by the programme board and obviously keep an eye on all scrutiny reports as well. Sections 5.6 and 5.7 of the report highlight the wellbeing and place shaping framework, and it's probably more appropriate if I hand over to Ed to cover this slide.
Okay, Ed.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Kath. Yeah, and members, this will be well-trodden ground for you. You'll appreciate that as recently as February, we brought a wellbeing and place shaping framework report through joint scrutiny and onto Cabinet. That framework set out £230 million worth of planned investment linked to our existing wellbeing objectives, as well as reporting on some of the investment that's been made to date. Many of those investments will run across multiple years. You'll appreciate within that report, we set out quite a detailed programme by which we could collaborate and engage with you as members and members of the community. A number of emerging opportunities already starting to come through that. And again, just to kind of place this in context, the Wellbeing and Place Shaping Framework, of course, aligns specifically with the Council's Strategic Recovery Framework. Thanks, Chair. I think it's back to Kath and the team.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed. In relation to commercial investment strategy, committee scrutinised this and the action plan, associated action plan, back in November last year. And I think Victoria is here to take you through the next few slides. Victoria, give me the nod.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't quite got enough bandwidth for my video, but hopefully you can all hear me okay. I'm very pleased and still very excited by the fact that we got the strategy adopted in December 2020. You'll recall that I think it was almost 14 months ago that we had the workshop with this committee to talk about what would be in that strategy and what it would look like. So really pleased that we've managed to progress that, particularly given the difficult year that we've all had. We've launched the Licence to Innovate scheme. We've done a sort of soft launch, and we've already had 2 panel sessions which have put forward 3 ideas which have gone to the regeneration board that have been approved. So that's working quite well. We do need to make some tweaks to the process because it's not quite as streamlined as we'd like it, but we anticipated that as part of the strategy implementation, that that we would need to try the process and see what worked, and we've had feedback from people that have been to the panel that we will incorporate into the sort of next iteration. I'll be kickstarting 2 new work streams this year. One will be focusing on fees and charges review, and that will sit alongside some of the work that I'm doing as part of the corporate reviews on sustainable financial planning. So we'll very much make sure that any natural overlaps are managed with the work that's happening with those work streams. And then there'll be another one on advertising and sponsorship policy. So that's part of the high-level action plans in the commercial strategy. Says that we'll have that work underway within the first 12 months. So we're on track to do that. Some of the main projects that I've been focused on, which many of you will, hopefully be aware of, have been supporting the Decarbonisation Agenda with a project for a solar farm. That's progressing through the governance routes at the minute, and that's a really exciting project. And then the other main project that we wanted to sort of spotlight on is the work that we've been doing with the destinations, with the tourism venues. So I've been working really closely with with Destination Cavilli, with all of the venues who have all had a really difficult and very trying year, as I'm sure you can all imagine. During that year, they have actually managed to come together and develop business plans for each of their venues. They've also now got overarching aims, which you can see on the slides in front of you. They've designed themselves a mission and a vision. They're working much better together as a team across the different venues, and part of the business planning process with them has been really getting them to focus on what they want to do over the next 3 to 5 years. And that is a very mixed approach. So there is some investment opportunities that they want to explore, but there are some efficiencies and some kind of business practices that they want to put in place as well, that will help move towards, as you can see on the bottom of that slide, reducing that subsidy. We've done that with a number of different things as part of the transformation team. We've all been part of supporting that. We brought the whole of destinations together before COVID, when we were all allowed to be together in a big group, which was a lovely session. We had about 100 people there. And it was brilliant. The buzz in the room was absolutely wonderful. The ideas that we got were brilliant, and some of the team members hadn't seen each other and hadn't worked together for a long time. So it was really lovely to bring them all together. They have also, the managers and head of regeneration have put together their business plans, which sit alongside their recovery plans, because many of the venues are still not open, but will be planning to open, and they very much have embraced the idea of reopening in the right way and with some of the new ideas that they've got in place and some of the new enthusiasm. We've been working, or Hayley from the team's been working on a marketing audit and a marketing plan, supporting the team with that, and that's part of what's included in the commercial strategy, is helping to upskill staff and to give them the tools and the skills that they need to be able to deliver on the business plans. So that's been a really key part of what we've been doing with them. So they've got their business plans. There's going to be some investment proposals being worked up. Each of those will be a sort of individual investment proposal on its own that they will have to fully work up, with support from the team, looking at what the investment is, looking at what kind of returns, different options analysis, and those sort of things. We've got a training plan identified for the venue managers and for their deputies, which we're hoping we're going to trial a few different types of training options. So we're going to do a hackathon, we're going to do an establishing commercial acumen, and we're going to do a sort of commercial coaching leadership type to see which one works well. And the hope is then, once the strategy is due for a refresh at the end of this year, we'll have some evidence and data about what type of training worked to create a longer term partnership approach for delivering on our commercial strategy longer term. So that's some of the work that we've been doing in more detail with Destination Caerphilly. Happy to take any questions on that or anything else related to the commercial strategy.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. As this is quite a detailed report, you suggested that you might like to pause here for any questions, both on the wellbeing and place shaping framework and on the commercial and investment strategy.
Yeah, that's right, Kath. Yeah, I thought it'd be best to do that instead of going through the whole report. Are there any questions on the last few slides from members? No. In that case, I've got one. Victoria, I think it was a few slides ago regarding the subsidy, and the projection is to get the subsidy down. Perhaps if we could bring the specific slide up, 3 or 4 ago, down to 0.5 million. There we are. Aim to reduce subsidy by 0.5 million over the next 3 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. If you've got, I appreciate you might have the actual figures to hand, but what does that mean in real terms? If it's, is that the subsidy in its entirety, 500,000, or?
Yeah, so at the minute the subsidy is 1.2 million. So we would be bringing that down by 500,000 to 700,000 per year. Okay. And the aim is obviously to go beyond that. Some of the venues, I think, pragmatically will always require some subsidy. Just because of the nature of them and how they operate, but certainly the plan for, at least 3, probably 4 of the venues is to continue that work and to get that subsidy not just reduced but managed, so that certainly longer term there is a much clearer picture of exactly what that's going to cost year on year, and it's a lot more managed subsidy is the sort of aim.
Okay, so just 100%, just on 100% on this before I bring Councillor Mann in. The 0.5 million is the total subsidy, so it's not it's 0.5 million for this sector or that sector. That's the total overall savings over the next 3 to 5 years planned for it. Is that correct?
For Destination Caerphilly, for the 5 venues, yes, and it's to reduce it by 500,000, so the subsidy will still be 700,000.
Yeah, thanks for that. Councillor Colin Mann.
Thanks, Chair. You on the same subject. I think I recall reading about a thought about camping in Llancair Bawr. I'm trying to remember if there was a excuse me, if there were any other proposals in there, positive initiatives which would obviously bring further income into the various destinations.
Okay, Victoria, you okay to answer that?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there are almost too many ideas that they had, if I'm completely honest. All of the managers and all of the staff, we had hundreds and hundreds of ideas. And what we've been doing with the team over the past kind of 12 to 18 months is to get us to refine those ideas to which are the really good ones and which are the ones that we could actually deliver. You're right, accommodation at Llancair is something that's really high on the agenda, and they actually bid for some money for them from the Licence to Innovate pot. To undertake a feasibility study just for accommodation at Llancair. So we're supporting them to really find out, if accommodation is viable there, what type of accommodation, what investment would be needed, and what kind of returns we could see. So that's one sort of kind of full circle where we're seeing, we've worked with them to come up with the ideas and help kind of take them to the next level. Other ideas that they've got, there's some ice cream stand going into the Tourist Information Centre in Caerphilly. There's a huge legacy project at Cwm Carn, and there are big projects that they want to focus on, but there's also small stuff as well. So Blackwood Miners wants to do some audience participation research to look specifically at the people that aren't coming and how they might be able to attract those people, whether it's a different programme or it's accessibility or what it is to try and attract people to the venues that aren't currently coming to the venues. So there's the full breadth of ideas. What we've tried to do in the business plans is to get them into short, medium and long term, and to be very, very clear about what ones they want to do and in what order.
You okay with that response, Councillor Mann?
Thanks, Chair. I muted. I hadn't realised. Yeah, thanks for that. Obviously, extra accommodation I would have thought would be in the short-term side of it, because we all know how many people would want to be going abroad for holidays this year and probably won't be. So there is a lot more business for the domestic market, and I know, for example, the site in Cwmcarn is quite popular and probably oversubscribed. So any other venues I would have thought would be welcome.
Yeah, it can't go as far. It can't go fast enough for us and for the venue as well. But you know, we need to make sure that we invest in the right opportunity for them, and not do something that just looks to maximise on that short-term growth, but that might not be the right longer-term solution for them.
Yeah, and just to pick up on what Councillor Mann has said there, Councillor Mann is named a few different places across the borough, and obviously with councillors, 73 of us, you know, I'd like to think we know our own patch. And so if I was to ask, well, I appreciate this is done at an officer level, you know, a lot of it, but you know, if I was a councillor looking to get ideas, you know, in terms of places in my area, I mean, what would be the process for that? Because, you know, undoubtedly there would be ideas, and a few have just come up now. So what would you say to that, Victoria, if you know, in terms of the next stages for that?
I pick up the phone. My number and the Team Caerphilly email address are available to everybody. You know, we don't get enough of hearing ideas from staff, you know, and from members as well. So really happy, you know, for any ideas to come forward, and incorporate them as best we can.
I think that'll be a good opportunity for any of us who do have those ideas to pick up the phone to yourself. So thanks for saying that. Kath, can we now move on to the presentation?
Okay, thanks, Chair. In relation to communication and engagement, it's been very important throughout the development of the review programme and the transformation strategy, both with staff, residents and the trade unions. The consultation and engagement framework was agreed last year. We've got ongoing staff engagement, as we said, linked to the corporate reviews and lessons learned from COVID and a directorate engagement sessions. And also the Your Council Needs You internal campaign, where we asked staff to become involved in the work. But it's probably better if I hand over to Hayley now to give you a little bit more information on that.
That's okay. Okay, Hayley, you available?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Evening, members. So yeah, you'll be aware that I bought it was probably over 12 months ago now that I bought the consultation engagement framework to you for consideration. And at that time, that really set out our intent to engage with and involve our stakeholders in the transformation process. And since that time, we've done some really good work to take forward that programme of engagement, focusing on staff, residents, trade unions, and of course yourselves. So across the whole programme, as Kath has just highlighted, engagement really is important, and in driving this work forward with our staff and communities and not doing it to them. That's our overriding mantra, really, when it comes to engagement. Now, we don't go into in too much detail in the report, but if it's all right with you, I did just want to focus on a little bit on our staff colleagues for just a couple of minutes. We've spent lots of time engaging with our staff on the principles behind Team Caerphilly Better Together. And as Kath mentioned there, we've carried out lots of engagement sessions with cross sections of staff, in person when we could, but more recently online when we couldn't, asking for their ideas and input. Importantly, as well, closing the loop and letting them know what we've done with that feedback that they gave us. And the sessions were carried out right across the directorates. Also asking staff for what lessons they learned through the pandemic, because obviously engagement is an ongoing thing, as well as areas where they felt the council could make some tweaks to make their jobs that little bit more effective or efficient. And it's been this engagement work that's been instrumental in helping shape the corporate reviews. Kath also mentioned the Our Council Needs You campaign, and we're really delighted with the excellent response from staff across the council, including some frontline staff who don't have access to council emails, and so perhaps wouldn't traditionally be the type of employee that would engage. So I would like to place on record our sincere thanks to our trade union colleagues there for their support in helping us get our campaign messages out there to their members. Just rounding off really on in terms of staff, acknowledging and picking up what Gareth Jenkins and Lynn Donovan both said earlier about engagement being an ongoing process. And we want to do this with our staff and with our communities, not to them. And there is going to be a section in the staff survey that's coming in within the next couple of weeks, which asks staff for their views on various measures linked back to Team Caerphilly Better Together. Just on that note, we're obviously really looking forward to the opportunity to discuss this with yourselves and the full 73 members at the members seminar, which we have in the diary for the 19th, so less than 2 weeks away. Really looking forward to that discussion and ongoing engagement with yourselves. If I can just quickly reference as well the work that we've been doing to engage with our residents so far. You'll be aware that we've carried out the resident survey, the Caerphilly Conversation, which gave us the opportunity to ask for our residents' views on a wide range of areas. So as well as the usual questions that we would ask in the household survey around satisfaction with council services, we also were able to ask questions on things like the response to the pandemic, the collective response, sorry, and also questions that would help the council with its future service planning and in helping shape these corporate reviews. So, for example, we asked questions such as, preferences for doing business with the council, questions on the use of digital, people's appetite to volunteer within their communities, quality of life issues, and various other things. It's really important and will be really key in helping us shape our future direction with those responses that the community gave us. It is important, again, that we continue to close the loop and offer feedback to our residents on what we've done or are doing with their feedback. And a bit of a plea from me here, really, I guess, the relationships that you guys have with your constituents really will be key in helping us with this ongoing process of engagement. Finally, I mentioned trade union colleagues a little earlier, but we are having regular engagement with them as part of the transformation programme. It's obviously an authority-wide journey and involves each and every one of our staff colleagues in some way. So the ongoing input of our trade union colleagues really is incredibly important to us. Oh, thank you, Kath. I can see there that Leanne, you've just shared some feedback there from Leanne from Caerphilly Unison, which is completely in line with our approach to engaging and continual involvement of staff in this process. I think I've just about rounded off my little segment there, Chair. Happy to take any questions that anyone might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayley, for that. That was great. Kath, could we go to, I think is questions the next slide now?
We can, Chair, and just to reiterate what Hayley said, yeah, we are meeting with Unison, Unite and GMB regularly, and particularly prior to the transformation reports coming into yourselves, so on a 6-monthly basis is a regular update in the diary to go through the corporate review specifically, but anything else related to transformation. Yeah. And within each of the, sorry, Chair.
No, I was just going to say it was I thank Caerphilly Unison for providing the statement which I shared with members over a week ago. As an authority, we need to be hand in glove with trade unions, I would argue, and well, we've seen the statement there. So onwards and upwards, I would hope. So yeah. Before I go to Margaret, is there anything you wanted to finish off? Sorry, Kath. Before I think I cut across
just
you.
Other than to say that within each of the corporate reviews, and you'll see the service review methodology later in the presentation. Within each of them, there's a stakeholder identification process which happens, and quite rightly, the unions are identified as being stakeholders within pretty much all of the corporate reviews. So at the appropriate point, aside from the regular updates, there will be engagement with the unions on each element as well.
Okay, thank you, Kath. Councillor Margaret Sargent, please.
Thank you, Chair. Kath, can I ask you a question on unions? What percentage of the staff are union members?
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that one, Councillor Sargent, and I'm sure that Lynn Donovan would know, and we can maybe provide that information after the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any further questions from members at all? No? Okay, can we go on to the next slide then, Kath?
Okay, just following the format of the report, referring back to the original strategic action plan that was part of the Team Caerphilly Better Together strategy, there was work against the actions in this that's been ongoing since 2019 when the strategy was first brought into being, albeit slowed a little by the response to COVID last year, but hopefully you can see over the last few months that work has picked up again significantly. And paragraph 5.11 to the report gives an update on actions that have been taken forward since your last update to Scrutiny, which was some 5 months ago. The bullet points are specific actions in the original strategic action plan, and they've now been completed. So you can see on the slide some examples there. The service review methodology, community asset transfer policy was agreed. The director performance assessments are now being used extensively across all scrutiny committee meetings, and the My Time Extra rollout as a replacement for the former performance development review process has happened in the last couple of months as well. So the majority of the original actions from the 2019 strategy are now ticked off. Where there are any outstanding, they're encompassed within the corporate review process now. One of them is the service review methodology. So I think I'll hand over to James to give you an update on that.
Okay, James, you there?
Sure, thanks everybody. Evening everybody, my name's James, I'm part of the transformation team here. Just to pick up where Kath left off, yes, our transformation strategy included a key action to develop a consistent service review methodology to support a structured programme of service reviews. So our service review methodology was developed following 2 pilot service reviews of the catering and building cleaning services, as well as other pre-COVID reviews of services, including our fleet services, our tourism destinations. And we learned a lot from those early reviews. And to complement that, we also took on board some good practice from elsewhere, from leading local authorities across the UK, including Wigan, the Wirral, South Ayrshire as well. We learnt, in particular, things like starting with the facts about the service and then building on that evidence in clear progressive stages. We learnt to identify all the relevant stakeholders early on, as Kath mentioned earlier, and engage with them and keep them engaged throughout the review as well. And we also learnt to be open-minded about solutions at the outset, so we allow the evidence from the review to inform decisions later on. So our plans for recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and then the corporate review programme itself as well helped add the finishing touches to this methodology. So we've now got a methodology that's standardised and scalable. So the same elements can be considered in a wide range of different review situations, small and large, and they can be used by any team to either to plan ahead or in response to changes in the working environment, things like new legislation, for instance. So each review should have 7 themes which feature throughout the review. Communication, which is being clear about what we're doing and what we hope to achieve. Data, good evidence to base decisions on. Asset-based approach, that's making the most of our people and buildings and playing to their strengths. Innovation, that's being willing to try new things and importantly to learn as we do so. Commercialisation, which is adopting a business head to go with our social heart. And workforce development, so making sure that our people have the skills they need to provide our residents with the services they need. And finally, the future. Every service review should be thinking about the future as well, planning ahead so that we can continue to be here for the people of Caerphilly in keeping with our responsibilities to future generations. So those 7 themes feature throughout each review as it progresses through 5 distinct stages. First stage is initiation, so that's where we decide on the scope of the review and identify stakeholders, as Kath mentioned, and build the review team. And then move into a data collection stage. That's all about gathering facts, why we provide that service, what it's intended to do, how it actually performs in practice, not necessarily the same thing, and any information we have about the likely future demand for that service as well. Once you've got all those facts, you can move to the 3rd stage, which is consultation. That's involving stakeholders and shaping the service for the future with the facts from the previous stage to help guide those conversations. Hayley talked about our consultation and engagement framework earlier. From that point on, you can move into the project planning stage, where we identify potential ways the service could develop in the future and choose the preferred option. And finally, there's a distinct closure and handover stage to clearly bring the review to an end and hand over to project implementation teams to deliver any changes. There's also a value for money model included in the methodology as well, and that prompts the review team to cover the traditional 3 E's of economy, efficiency and effectiveness, what the Audit Office calls spending less, spending well and spending wisely. But there's also 4 additional E's as well, which complement Caerphilly's aims. Equity, which is about making sure that the service is fair. Environment, recognising both the local and global impact of our work. Enterprise, both in the business sense and in the wider sense of looking out for opportunities to improve. Victoria talked about our license to innovate earlier, and that's all about helping to encourage this kind of thinking. And the last one, excellence, recognising good work and striving to give the people of Caerphilly the best we can deliver. So those 7 E's, that model recognises that value in the value for money is about much more than just pound signs. So the service review methodology has these 7 themes, 5 stages, 7 E's of the value for money model, and it also has some advice on roles and responsibilities in the review process, how you go about making changes, and some example templates as well. Now, it's currently being used as one of the key tools in the progression of our corporate reviews as well. Now, every one of the 10 corporate reviews are all very different, but the scalable nature of the methodology allows it to be used where it's most appropriate and effective. So some corporate reviews are using that methodology to guide the corporate review as a whole, and others are using it at the level of individual work streams, especially where different strands of work might be in different stages of the methodology at any particular time. So overall, it's a standardized approach to guide managers and their teams as they review the services they provide, usable for the corporate reviews or in everyday use. And I'm sure that as we carry on using it, it'll be further refined as well in line with our experiences.
Thank you, James. And as James said, the important thing is that it's providing some consistency as well. So all of the reviews, all of the programmes, work streams, review leads, etc., using the same consistent methodology. So it's been important to develop that. So thanks, James. And finally, following the report update, the transformation capacity update was reported to Council on the 24th of February. So as finally as part of the financial implications section of the report, we just wanted to touch upon and give you an update on the additional capacity agreed by Council. So aside from the small core team being made permanent, the 4 fixed term posts were agreed, and these have been sent out to advert as 3 project support officers and 1 project engagement officer. They have been evaluated with interviews in late April to early May, and hopefully given notice periods, the required capacity to meet the scale and pace of change required will be imposed by summer of this year. That's the final slide, Chair.
Okay, Kath. Councillor Colin Mann.
Thanks, Chair. The community asset transfer policy, I can't say I'm familiar with the detail of it. That's why I'm asking the question. I don't know what sort of assets we are looking to transfer, but could I suggest that the assets need to be in reasonable condition before you offer them to any possible partners, because there has been a tendency at times to maybe all that place is run down. We'll see if we can get rid of it because it's a liability to us. I just wonder what approach we were making on that one.
Chair, should I take that one?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Probably more than any other officer, I was involved in that, and it has been to yourselves. I think I forget the date now. It's probably around about September, so it would be one of your earlier scrutiny meetings after the COVID disruption to the scrutiny process. So it did come to yourselves. It's been in development for around 18 months. Was developed very much with the third sector and is sort of a joint project between policy and property services as well. In response to Councillor Mann's question around the status of assets prior to transfer, it is in the policy that's been used at the moment. Unlike some authorities where they've actually identified a list of assets to transfer, we haven't done that, but it does sit there on the shelf to enable us if we identify an asset, or if a community organisation comes to us and says we would like to take that on, it gives us a policy and framework to use. In relation to the question around putting them in a fit state, it would be on a case-by-case basis, as you can imagine, because our asset base is so wide and they're in just varying conditions, etc. There is a process whereby the community organisation would be asked to provide a business plan so that we could assure ourselves that the asset would be sustainable for the long term, because it would have obviously been purchased with public sector funds in the first case, and we would need to ensure sustainability before we considered any transfer. So all of this is case by case. It's difficult to say, there's a one size fits all, because it would depend on the community organisation, their business plan, the asset, the intended use, the sustainability of it, etc. But obviously those things would be coming into consideration as part of that.
Okay, thanks, Kath. I've also got a different question, Chair. I don't know if you want to take that one as well.
Yeah, unless there are any further questions, I think you'd probably be the last question, unless anybody wants to come in, because that's the end of the presentation. But fire away, Colin.
Yeah, I think it was the previous slide you put up to this one, Kath, on the transformation team, I think it was.
I can bring that back up, Chair, if that would help.
Yeah, that'd be good, yeah.
Well, it might help members to see what I'm on about.
It was me.
Was it the penultimate slide, Colin?
Yeah.
Yes, it was, I think.
Yeah.
So, Chair, can you see that at the moment?
Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, this is a question I was going to raise earlier on, Chair. It's the I read in the report that there's a permanent head of transformation is required. Now, I don't know whether that's supposed to be an additional post to what we've got. And then the appointment of 4 fixed-term project managers to 368,000, etc., etc. Now, I can't help remembering, Chair, that the last temporary appointments we made then went into permanent ones. So I don't know how long it's going to be before these 4 fixed-term ones are going to be permanent as well. And what is the actual status of the head of transformation?
Before I ask for that, Councillor Mann, I think I'm right in saying, Kath, that nobody predicted COVID, and certainly for the large part of the last 12 months, am I right in saying that the part of the transformation team were actually dealing with the pandemic and the response from the local authority, obviously in unprecedented times? I just wondered if there's anything you could shed more light on that, and then I'll bring in the appropriate person to answer Councillor Mann's question.
Yeah, Chair, ref your comments. I accept what you said there about people being diverted, but I think that doesn't alter the overall sort of query that I made, really.
And that's fair enough. Kath?
Chair, yeah, just to say that, yeah, the transformation team are actually all on the call. So it's James and Victoria and Hayley who's been permanently transferred over to this capacity as well. Yes, they were completely diverted by the COVID response from March to the end of August last year, before it transferred over to Tina McMahon's team and is now becoming the Caerphilly Cares response. So yeah, that is the case. They are a small team of officers, and I hope you can see the breadth and extent of work that they've been involved in and picked up on over the last couple of months. In relation to the decision by council, it's probably more appropriate that Ed or Sue answers that question for Councillor Mann.
Yeah, Ed?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was going to reiterate many of the comments that Kath has just shared with the group, in fairness. We have pointed out the fact that the transformation team are on the call. They have been on the call on many occasions where questions have been asked in terms of the fixed term nature of their posts. I, for one, on the basis of what I've seen this evening, been incredibly impressed by what the team's achieved. I'm also a believer that if somebody comes in on a fixed term post and they prove their worth and they demonstrate that the role that they're delivering is an excellent role that adds significant value, and we have the opportunity to make those posts permanent, I, for one, would certainly endorse that. So in terms of dealing with those specific posts, I think we've probably said enough on it. In terms of the heads of service, the head of transformation, I think from memory, council approved 2 additional heads of service by way of further capacity for the organisation in terms of delivering not just Team Caerphilly, but its kind of wider set of objectives. As it stands at the moment, the job descriptions for those posts are being finalised, and the process attached to the appointments for those posts are also being finalised. So I'm hoping to have something to share with members in the very, very near future. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Ed. And can I reiterate as well my full support for the team. You've seen the response from the trade unions in support of the transformation programme. I think a hell of a lot of work is going on, and hopefully very soon we'll see the fruition of that. But you know, I do have to say that, you know, at the start of the pandemic, a lot of hard work, you know, went in to support the council in its response. So I would certainly agree with what Ed has said there, and this report is very wide-ranging and gives us a lot of positivity for the future. I would argue. Colin?
Yeah, Chair, my question was not about criticising the work the team has done in the last 12 months. It was, I just wanted to query the head of transformation, and Ed has actually answered that. So thanks for that. It was the project managers really. What is the reality of that? Is it something else that people have in mind to make permanent sometime in the future, or is it literally a fixed term contract?
Well, I can bring Ed back in to answer that.
Yeah, as it stands, Councillor Mann, they are fixed term posts. They are being funded from a reserve, so it isn't recurrent funding. But I go back to my earlier comments again. If those project managers come in and they deliver additional capacity, greater efficiency, more effectiveness, they allow us to deliver more as an organisation, then of course we consider that in the round, subject of course to any future growth bids being supported by yourselves as members. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Any further questions from members?
Okay, go ahead.
No, okay then. Well, before I close the meeting, can I thank everybody who's been on the call and all the members that have asked the very important questions. And I think the answers coming back from officers have been very, very good, very pleasing. Before I go out to close, Councillor Margaret Sargent would like to come in. Margaret.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I did ask to come back in.
Oh, apologies for that. Go on,
That's
Margaret.
okay. It's on the report on 5.4 and 5.5. But it was also mentioned in Kath's presentation about the Audit Wales involvement. And my question just is their findings, will that be filtered back through to the Audit Committee? Governance and Audit Committee, sorry.
Okay. Somebody able to, I'm not sure who I should defer to for that question. Ed?
Thanks, Chair. Coming into my own at the back end of the meeting. Yeah, Councillor Sargent, as you'll appreciate, Audit Wales have taken a slightly new direction in the last 12 months. They now like to sit alongside us as critical friends to help advise and guide and challenge us through these processes. So they're an active part of at least 3 of our reviews, but naturally any findings in relation to governance and audit will be shared with the Audit Committee in due course.
That's fine. Thank you ever so much.
Okay. Okay, members, there are no further questions. So again, can I thank everybody who's Sue, come on then, Sue Richards.
Just very quickly, Chair, to add to Ed's comment, myself and the team meet with Gareth from Audit Wales every 6 weeks for a session to feedback. So as Ed quite rightly said, the programme is developed with Audit Wales and full partnership. Thank you.
The reincarnation of Audit Wales, Chair.
Well, thank you, Sue, for that. Okay, so there are no further questions. So the recommendation is on page 15 of the packs, and we're asked to note the content of the report and make any comment to the progress against the Cabinet, against the strategy prior to the update being provided to Cabinet, which we have. Can I thank everybody for attending? I now declare the meeting closed.